Dear Redditors, how did you find out you were getting cheated on? A flirty text from a guy popped up on while we were looking at her phone for a place to eat. He complimented a picture I had just taken of her. She sent it to him while around me. Bold. Also, this happened in the Eiffel Tower, only a couple of hours into what was supposed to be 2-week vacation. He gave me his phone to hold while he was having a minor medical procedure, and while in the waiting room, a text came through. It said something like, "Ha, so we can do the deed again?" And I was totally confused, so I scrolled up through the text thread and read, "I'm sorry if you feel guilty," and "No, I'd only feel guilty if I still loved her." And that was the end of that relationship. The other girl was wearing my clothes in front of me. Edit. Thanks for all the love, guys. The one part of this entire debacle that was hysterical was that she tried to deny that she was wearing my clothes when I confronted her, until I pointed out the oil stain on the white shirt she was wearing, which my sister caused when she borrowed said shirt without asking. Plot twist. She and I are friendly now and he's off being miserable somewhere else. I was pregnant, and they were doing the standard tests, including STDs, and I tested positive for chlamydia. I was so embarrassed, but glad to have found out, because it turns out that can really mess up a pregnancy. Still took me another year to file for divorce, though. Edit. Since this seems to have confused many people somehow, I was married. My husband got caught cheating on me while pregnant. I forgave him. He came clean. I forgave him, and he did it a few more times, and we got a divorce. I don't know how this implies that I had a kid by another man, don't wipe properly, did butt stuff, had a false positive. The other woman knocked on my front door and asked me to take my kid and get out so that the two of them could be together and be happy. I told her she could have him, but they'd have to go because technically I owned the house. I then told him he was free to go. He did not go, sadly. She'd been dropped off by her ex, who she'd cheated on with my ex-husband. That was quite awkward. A man knocked on my door and introduced himself as the husband of a woman that my husband worked with. He was there to tell me that his wife was having an affair with my husband. My husband never came home after that. He got an Airbnb and told me to get a lawyer. We had been together for 24 years. She stopped giving me hugs. Sometimes you just know. Fuck guys, thanks for all the love. Together for about 8 years, married for only 3. Crazy story, but we were living in an abusive scenario with another person, and she was what was keeping me sane. It was rough to realize she was cheating on me with this guy. I feel better now. Definitely learned over time that questioning yourself and spending time wondering what you could have done different is essentially pointless. Went on a solo road trip to CA from NY. My then BF of 5 years was supposed to fly to San Diego when I arrived. Then we'd drive home together. Pick him up from the airport. Use his phone to pull up directions for our restaurant reservation. He gets a notification from a social media app he must have forgotten to delete. I ask him about it. He grabs his phone and deletes the app. Says it would hurt me more to read the conversations he'd been having with women and that I'm obviously going to dump him either way, so he wanted to save himself the embarrassment of getting exposed. I made him call his mom and arrange to have his stuff moved out of our apartment. Told him to find his own way home. Finished the road trip home without him. When I got home, it was like he'd never lived there. Exactly how I wanted. Was using her phone for GPS while we were on a road trip because mine had issues when she got a text from the guy we had been in marriage counseling about who she says she hasn't talked to him for months about seeing her tomorrow. 24 years of being together, 23 years, married, 2 kids, a house. All down the fucking drain and ruined my life for a guy who could pass for a real-life Ned Flanders. Open up the tablet to play with it. Found an open email that I had never seen before. Read the messages between them. I've never been the same since. Divorced now. We were together for 30 years. Edit. I am overwhelmed by all of your love and kindness. Thank you. Love back to all of you. Yes, I tried and wanted to keep my marriage, but he continued to lie and betray me so that I was left with no choice but to divorce. Do you know what helped me so much? My mom, without asking or anything, came over and filled my freezer with crock-pot meals and casseroles. I was so depressed and I had 2 children to care for, and dinner was always so easy just to pop in and be done with. She did that for about a year. Forever grateful for her thoughtfulness and generosity. Edit 2. Together 30 years. Not married 30. Sorry for the misunderstanding. Married 24 years. We started dating at 15, married at 21. I didn't have children until my 30s. I was 45 when we divorced. My children were 8 and 10. Thank you all for the stories and praise from my mom. I hope your recovery is faster than mine was. 2 interesting ones from close friends. Friend's neighbor looked into her house from the second floor and saw him fucking the nanny. They are currently in divorce proceedings, though he's still dating the nanny. The more interesting one is, a friend was headed to Thanksgiving with her husband when she got a text from a woman saying, "Your husband has been fucking me and several other women," then gave a list of the women. She was aghast, not sure what to do, then the woman sent pics as evidence. The woman was pissed, as he had promised her he would spend Thanksgiving with her instead of his wife, my friend. My friend divorced him. Her roommates called and asked me to meet them for lunch, said it was important. I met them, and they told me she had been cheating on me with her ex the entire time I was deployed. They showed me pictures, back when you had to get pictures developed. They said I was a good man, and I didn't deserve to be treated like that. They had collected my things that morning when she left for work and gave them to me. I drove to her work, walked up to her, showed her the pictures, and demanded the ring back. She gave it to me and I left. Later, she called me yelling about me, conspiring with her roommates, basically trying to make it my fault. She asked what I was doing meeting with them. I said, "It's called respect and closure, and it sounds like this." I unplugged the phone, landline, waited an hour, plugged in the phone, and called the phone company, said I needed to change my number and never heard from her again. I took it really rough and am thankful for her roommates and the friends that got me through probably the darkest time of my life. This was a long time ago, before social media. I went to check my email on his computer and his instant messenger popped up. He ex-girlfriend, couldn't wait to finally see him next week. That long distance has been awful and can't wait to reconnect. He told me they broke up. They did not. He did not tell her about me or that we were living together. I was suddenly homeless. She did fly in the next week and gave the ring back. I did not know they were engaged, thought they had broken up. Yay, good times. Edit, left off the part that I was supposed to be a summer fling, but we were in a motorcycle accident which I had 5 surgeries and he had a new femur replacement. He somehow forgot to tell his fiancée about my part in this and the subsequent lawsuit. Me and the other 2 guys I worked with had it come up in conversation. She told guy A that me and her had broken up, and she told guy B that I gave her a pass while I was on vacation. You think she would have learned. Found out a few years later she did the same thing with a couple guys at the gym she was working at the time. Those 2 guys showed up at her house to call her out on it. She was sleeping with her boss, in the most cliched excuses. I really think if she'd said to me the passion and love was gone, we could have divorced amicably because I was miserable too. But when she cleaned out our house and bank account, well, that changed the dynamic just a smidge. Fuck you, Michelle. I decided to get a divorce. Dude wouldn't stop accusing me of cheating. After I left, some mutual friends of ours at the time told me he was on dating sites, etc. When I went back to the house to grab some of my stuff, another woman had moved in, 2 days after I left. It all started to make sense. Apparently it's true if they're cheating, they will accuse you. I don't know all the details, don't want to. Better off sparing my feelings and not knowing all the details than to be ripped apart inside if I do. Fuck that asshole. Long story short, she lied about seeing a movie that wasn't coming out for another 2 weeks. I pressed and the truth came out. We stayed together under the guise of us working on us and fixing the problems that needed fixing. I tried. Hard. 2 months later, a mutual friend tells me that she's been seeing the one dude. I talk to him and find out that she's been seeing him and another 3 people, no safe sex, and pregnancy. He stopped smiling at me, stopped kissing me goodnight, stopped holding my hand. He became very short and impatient with me, mean. Didn't seem to want me around. Spent lots of time in his office. Was on his phone a lot and would get messages and be smiling. Then he asked me for a divorce. I decided to snoop. I opened his laptop and saw all the evidence. It destroyed me. The most recent, he left the messages open on my computer. I kicked him out. Most memorable was when I was working as a nurse's aide in a hospital. He showed up at work and I asked why he was there, wasn't expecting him. So he told me that his friend was upstairs in labor, with his baby, told him to be gone by the time I got off work. The most recent, he left the messages open on my computer. I kicked him out. Most memorable was when I was working as a nurse's aide in a hospital. He showed up at work and I asked why he was there, wasn't expecting him. So he told me that his friend was upstairs in labor, with his baby, told him to be gone by the time I got off work. He asked me to go unlock his car since he'd locked his keys inside. Friend he told me he was with was nowhere to be found. Checked his phone and found the messages. He wouldn't admit to actually sleeping with her until 2 years later. Then asked for an open relationship and got upset when I got more dates than him. We've since split, thankfully. This was many years ago. The BF of a couple we used to hang out with had a massive crush on me. Somehow it was decided by the three of them that if my BF hooked up with this guy's GF, then I would have sex with him as revenge. I was so disgusted with them all. Of course, I never had anything to do with this loser, and my BF and I broke up. There were many problems with this relationship, and this was like the icing on the cake. I got an email from some guy I met once at a friend of a friend's party. My wife was seeing his former housemate behind my back. He had been cheated on himself and was doing me a solid favor, tipped me off with the address and said to check EZ Pass and phone records. I caught and confronted her leaving the guy's house the next day. We're lucky we didn't have any kids. I've been divorced for almost 10 years, never been happier. He started getting antsy about leaving his phone in my presence. So I logged into his Facebook on the shared iPad and saw in his messages. I called him out on my suspicion the next morning. He denied it. I logged into his messenger and saw him admitting that I caught them, and they planning on meeting up to talk about it. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, make sure to check out the video on screen, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more daily Reddit stories.